That's how we start. God, my life is so boring. Let me tell you about it. Let me take you on a journey. But I think back to like 2010, and I was just fired from a career job. And I thought, you know, it'd be a good idea, get in the car, an old station wagon with my buddy, and go to Tennessee. Because why not?
So in the beginning, for me, it was all really just in my head. So I probably started thinking about this a couple years before it actually happened. I didn't know what we wanted to do or what I was going to do. We just wanted to do something. There were lots of needs in Dayton and lots of needs in Miamisburg, but just what those were. And it just kind of came down to we like food, we like to eat, people need food, people like to eat, so that's how we kind of just started feeding people.
There was talks of this idea of Jason saying, feed people. And I was like, I want to help people. And thus BOGG started.
Name's Jason Johnston, co-founder, vice president.
And I'm Jason Barton. I'm the co-founder and executive director of BOGG Ministries.
So I think back to like the early days of working at my dining room table and putting clothes that we got donations for in my garage, right? And filling up my friend's garage and thinking about, I just want to help people. We wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference, but I couldn't have told you that that difference would be what it's turned into.
In the beginning, we worked with a social worker at a school and found 4 families who, well, we tried to find a lot of families, and our goal was to cook dinner and bring it to them. And not as many people wanted food from us as we thought would. So we found 4 people who were willing to let us into their house every Tuesday night and bring dinner to them and their kids. Those 4 families started sharing food with their neighbors. So we started taking food to their neighbors, and then their neighbors started sharing leftover food with their neighbors, so we started taking food to their neighbors.
It's just been about people, right? And so from a station wagon to, right, like I can remember that breaking down, like us bringing food to people and like running out of gas and like pushing the station wagon across the street, you know, and being like, well, this is my job, you know? But it was fun, right? Like it was a good time. And as that evolved, right, it went from saying, hey, we have a station wagon, this good idea, and people who need food, to being able to get someone to say, here's 26 grand, go buy a box truck. For us, I think we had like 3 grand in the bank. Like that was such a, okay, what we're doing is intentional, it's supposed to happen. And that just kept growing, right? We just kept being ourselves and saying, how can we interact with people? How can we treat people the way that we think they should be treated? And then the next thing you knew, we had a refrigerated truck, right? All of a sudden it was like growth. And then I think for us, we hit the pause button because growth became overwhelming.
Today, BOGG Ministries provided turkeys and all the trimmings to 400 people. BOGG Ministries here in Miamisburg is used to feeding hundreds of people every week. We're now feeding more people than ever.
Those in need can get a week's worth of groceries and a hot meal.
It's all free thanks to 2 guys who run a mobile food pantry.
We weren't interacting quite the way we wanted to initially when we started off. How do you serve a lot of people food to make sure they get their bellies fed, but also make sure that they understand that this organization is about community?
In the beginning, we saw 4 families a week. So it was easy for Jason and I to go in and see these families and become part of their families and be friends with them. Well, now we have sometimes 200 plus families a week that we're serving, along with 50 or 60 volunteers a week. So while I thought I was just gonna be teaching people to give out food, I've had to teach volunteers how to love the families we serve and how to come alongside them and be their friends.
I could have never imagined the amount of people, the faces and words and time that was given and money that's been given that has allowed us to take a passion for people and a passion for people getting food and turning into millions of pounds of food.
I thought it was just going to be us serving 4 or 5 or 6 families that we serve every week, and not me teaching other people how to love the families we serve.
The amount of people we've met on all sides of it has just been, it's been mind-blowing to me, sincerely. Like,
we have certain people that not only get food in each location, but certain people that come and volunteer in each location. And every time those people show up, it's kind of like a mini reunion. Like, hey, how's your last month been? What have you been doing? How's your kids? How's your family? But for me, something I never saw happening was how much volunteers would turn into family.
you know, if a volunteer came out, it wasn't like, hey, we're just serving somebody food who needs it. It's saying, this is your neighbor, right? This is your city. And this is John, right? And John, this is Sally. And guess what? We're pretty much the same people.
Like, honestly, I met my wife as a volunteer. Like, we have regular volunteers who come out every month or sometimes even every week for years now.
At the end of the day, we are in this community together, and that was always important to us. It was important that we reminded people to be people and not get stuck in the stereotypes of whatever culture community you live in.
But I never had any idea how much volunteers would become family. And so I think that keeps us here just as much as the people we serve as the people who come and serve alongside us.
We're sharing this time together. It isn't about me helping you, it's not about you getting help from us, but it's saying in this moment we're doing life together. And I think that's always been a core for us, which is where I love people and feed people always made sense. It was some level of, Jason being like, feeding people's important, and I'm going, hey, loving people's important. And us just continuing to merge and believe in one another and be grateful for the blessings that continue to fall in our lap.
Every time we've pivoted and every time we've changed, it's just been circumstances where we have no idea what we're doing. We just want to go love people in this place. And it hasn't always been easy or pretty, but in the end, it's always been good.
This wasn't meant to be kumbaya. This was meant to be, let's be alive and give whatever we have to it. The people are what make it special, right? And I think that exists in every other city. But for me, like, it is a special place because I've been able to play a small part in the story of Dayton, Ohio. When I think about Dayton, right, like I moved to Dayton from Madison, Wisconsin in 2003. And when I moved here, I was just hitting the reset button for myself personally. And I thought, right, the idea of home would always be Wisconsin, and that, like, I couldn't find my people, right? And what I recognized was I was building my community and my people, like, every year that I was here longer.
Hey, what are we doing today?
Just showing some love. Happy Valentine's Day pizza. Down the RJ.
When BOGG started, it was like, I love this city. Like, I've become a different me in this city. Then that's home.
Man, I feel like the reason we focus here in Dayton is because our entire group, whether it's people we feed, whether it's volunteers, have become family to us. Even when the tornado hit, like, one of the first things we did was go to a neighborhood where we serve families and look for specific people. Like, hey, I know someone used to live here on the street. We need to go find them and see if they're okay. And then once they were, that led to us serving that neighborhood for an extra 6 or 8 months because we had family in that neighborhood.
Tornadoes across the heartland. Take a look at Dayton, Ohio as the sun rises. People waking up to scenes like this.
I thought I was humble when I started this, but I didn't know anything about what humility looked like, and I think that's one thing that 13 years later, like, I've had enough personal life happen, BOGG's had enough professional life happen, and I'm still at that same we are together, and people matter, and community matters, and we need to be good to one another and play our part. And sometimes you're leading the charge, and other times you're following.
For me, a big hope, even for this year, is getting back to where we were 3 years ago. So when the pandemic shook everything up and we had to go strictly drive-through, we lost a lot of that getting to know our families we serve. We lost a lot of getting to know our volunteers. We lost the cookout, and we lost a lot of community of it. So my hope for this year and the next couple of years are building those communities back up to where our events are block parties like they used to be, and we have huge turnouts and lots of food and lots of fun where people go home with groceries.
When I think about, we're here at 13 years, but maybe there's 5 more years, maybe there's 20 more years, right? I guess my hope is that we continue to find ways to love and feed people, right? And I think like one of those ideas that's fresh right now, right? And we have this motorcycle, and that motorcycle is gonna give away popsicles and root beer floats. Why? Because I think something that's been really cool for me is God has been God during this whole journey. Jason and I have changed as humans so many times. We've had so many personal life things happen for better and worse. But the consistency is like we've been us. God's continued to do good things. So we have a motorcycle, and I want to give away ice cream. And I want to let God be God, and I'm going to continue to let us be us. And you know, I hope there's a lot more years of loving and feeding people, and that I guess someday I hope that it's not Jason and Jason, and I don't know whose name it is, and someone sitting here having this conversation, but I can sit back and go, that's pretty cool, right? Like, and it's not pretty cool because something I did, it's pretty cool because something much bigger than me has happened and continue to happen.